Hey guys, it's Bobby Legs, and welcome to another episode of Bobby Legs Loves Watches. And today I will be reviewing the Borealis Cascais version 2. I know I've said it before, and I apologize in advance, but the two greatest surprises that I've had as a result of having a YouTube channel reviewing and talking about watches is first the friendships that I've made with people like you and other enthusiasts, and also the exposure to name brands, to independent brands, and to micro brands like the Borealis. Now, this is the second version of the Cascais, and I look forward to doing this review. But before we continue, please remember to like and subscribe and click that bell icon to get notifications every time I upload new videos. I love making these videos, and I hope you like them too. And please also follow me on Instagram. Now let's get on with the review. So let's jump to the specs. We have a 41 millimeter case diameter. Let's actually call it a bezel diameter. The case, you can see the bezel just lips over the case, and that's where you get your 40 millimeter. You have a 47.5 millimeter lug to lug, 12.5 millimeter case thickness with a double domed sapphire crystal with AR coating on the inside, 20 millimeter lug width. The bracelet starts off at 20. It's a nice satiny looking bracelet, and it tapers down to 18 to this nice clasp that you see pretty much typically with all the micro brands. 6 millimeter 6 micro adjustments, fold over and push button deployment. Nicely well done. Yeah, pretty satisfied with the clasp. You got a nice little engraved B. Pretty simple, nothing to write home about for Borealis there. Screw down case back with the engraved mermaid, nicely done. As you see, 300 meter water resistance. You do get 300 meter water resistance with this watch. For that kind of water resistance, the case is pretty thin by my estimates, and that's because you do have the Miyota 9015 caliber movement in here. And while we're at it, let's talk about it. You do get 24 joules, 28,800 vibrations per hour. It does have around 42 hours of power reserve. So let's unscrew the crown, which is just slightly over 7 millimeters, and there's no crown guards, but the knurl is pretty aggressive on the crown. It's big, aggressive knurl, so that means easy to unscrew. The first position there will wind. Now there is a second position, is a ghost position, because this does have a, I believe this has a date complication in it, but obviously it's not featured here on the dial. And then the final position hacks the second hand, and you could set the time. Let's go to 10:10. Here we go. Push it in, screw down, 300 meters water resistance like that. Let's talk about the bezel. 120 click bezel. Very nice action, lines up great. The bezel is a lumed ceramic bezel, and the hands are also lume, and the hour indices with BGW9 Super Luminova. Let's see, the case 316L stainless steel, as well as the bracelet. Most of it is brushed or satiny looking. You do have these polished chamfered edges here, and signature crown with the Borealis B as well. And that looks like it's to be polished, except for the B obviously is engraved. Now let's zoom in to the dial. You have this gilt look bordering around the hands and the hour indices, as well as the minute track inside. The chapter ring is kind of interesting here. It kind of, I'm not really sure. I'm trying to get a close zoom in. It looks like maybe that's printed. But for a second there, I thought that those like little indices there were like little pieces or slivers of, I don't know, steel. but you can see the rest of the chapter ring is stainless steel as well. Now the dial is pretty interesting. You do have this what they call a cobblestone effect. That's the effect that they were looking for. So I guess is to mimic like a cobblestone street. Uh, so it's nicely textured. And Borealis written just underneath the 12 o'clock, and Cascais and 30 Atmos right above the 6 o'clock. So let's talk about some positives, things that I like about this watch. You know, I love the sizing. This 39 millimeter to 41 millimeter range, even 42 millimeter case diameter range with a 47 or 48 millimeter lug to lug is really the sweet spot for me and my size. And I'm a 6 3/4 inch wrist guy. I'll throw in an outdoor shot doing a wrist roll, but I'm also going to put it on here under camera. And as you can see, the sizing is perfect. It's super comfortable. The 12.5 millimeter case thickness is just about right, and it just hugs my wrist. The lugs point down pretty aggressively, and it hugs my wrist really, really well. So good job with the sizing. I think there's a lot of guys in this range of 6 3/4, 6.5 to maybe 7 1/4 inch wrist range that this watch will definitely work for you. Another thing I like about it, and I just gave you a brief little peek, is the clasp and the 6 micro adjust. You know, this is pretty typical for a lot of micro brands in this range, and I think it's great. And this is a tour watch, right? So that means that this watch is being passed around between 10 and 12 guys, gals. You know, all of different sizes. And when I got it, it was a little big. I didn't feel like sizing it, but I noticed that the bracelet was at the final micro adjust on the outside here. So you know, shoot it over here to the most inner one, and it fits great. And you could only really get that close of a touch with the micro adjust. Now, I guess, you know, if this was my watch, I probably, you know, and I wasn't passing this around on tour, like, you know, maybe 3 micro adjusts would be fine. I don't know. I just really like with a dive watch something, a bracelet, a substantial bracelet that has 6 micro adjusts. And I think this is where watches from brands like Long Island Watch are kind of missing the boat. Everything about the ISL 18 and the 44 that I reviewed recently I love, except for the clasp. The clasp only had 3 micro adjusts, and I would have loved it if it had 6. And plus, the clasp was like half the size, almost like maybe a little bit bigger than half the size. And so it didn't really. This really fills out the space a lot better, if you know what I mean. Let me show you. Whereas, you know, the Islander kind of feels a little empty on wrist, the clasp, I mean. So, like I said, this feels like it's a perfect size for my wrist, the perfect amount of clasp, you know. Whereas the Islander it's more like this, and there's just a lot of, I don't know, it's not empty space, but it's just, I don't know, it could be filled out a little bit better. So I think kudos on Borealis with that for sure. Also, I really love the gold tones, the gilt tones that they used around the hands, hour markers, and even on the minute track here. As an owner of the Black Bay 58, the original one, I really love how this vintagey look on a modern watch, you know, plays out. There's something really appealing to me to see these gold tones juxtaposed over a black or dark dial. I get a sense of warmth. There's a chocolatey sense to the dial that I just love. Also, finally, the BGW9 Superluminova applied here is even and well done to ensure a really good lume. Now, I'd like to touch on a couple of negatives, and these are purely subjective. They're not objective, they're just purely subjective. It's just a matter of taste. I know I had mentioned that I love the gold tones or the gilt look on the watch. However, overall, the style, the design doesn't really appeal to me. There's nothing here that screams wow. It's actually very plain looking to me. I mean, I know the dial is textured, cobblestone look, but that really doesn't do anything for me either. And second, the loom is great. Don't get me wrong. Um, but for some reason, because the way the hour indices are bordered by this gold tone, for me, I can't really tell. It doesn't really look like the hour indices and the numbers on the bezel match. They probably do, but it's just playing a little bit of tricks on me. So I would have much rather have these number indices on the bezel, more of like the gold tone, like I'm gonna go back to it, but like the Black Bay 58. Now I know this is not the Black Bay 58, and not all watches have to look like the Black Bay 58. I get that, but I think I would have liked to have seen maybe even like maybe border the bezel numbers with a little bit of gold or gold tone, and still be able to keep that BG W9 Superluminova on it. At the end of the day, like, I'm not a loom junkie, so I could live without loom on the bezel. But I get it. I mean, if that's what you like, that's what you like. And like I said, these these views of mine, these opinions are just subjective. Objectively speaking, this is a pretty good watch, but unfortunately, the Borealis Cascais version 2 is sold out. They did do a pre-order, 50% down, $195, so you're looking at a total of $390 for the watch. Expected release, according to their website, is December of 2020. So if you didn't pre-order, your best bet to get one will be in the secondary market. But fear not, I believe, I have a feeling that Borealis will be coming out with another version of this watch sometime next year. That's just my guess. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think of this watch in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.